So today we're going to talk about Harold Strauss, a high school football coach whose name for a long time basically meant success. But as you're about to see, his legacy is a really complex story. It's about building a community, achieving the impossible, and some deeply troubling questions. This one sentence says it all. It was from a parent right after a tough loss, and it perfectly captures one side of the Harold Strauss story. It tells you that to so many people, he was way more than just a coach. He was a character builder, a real pillar of his community. And yet, that whole celebrated legacy, everything he built, is now being completely re-examined. The story isn't just about winning and losing anymore. It's about trying to reconcile the public hero with the serious questions that now hang over his name. So, to really understand this conflict, you have to go back. We need to explore the legend first. We gotta look at the pillars that made Harold Strauss such an icon in his town. Okay, so this was his whole philosophy. And notice, football isn't number one. For him, it was always about character first. He truly believed that if his players just focused on these four things, as he used to say, the winning will take care of itself. And he wasn't just talking the talk. This was real. Before any player could even think about practice, they had to be at a mandatory hour-and-a-half study hall. Now, for high school football back in the early 2000s, that was pretty much unheard of. For him, academics weren't an afterthought. They were the price of admission. And this quote right here from a local police lieutenant really shows that third pillar in action. Strauss made community service the actual identity of his program. His players weren't just athletes on Friday nights. They were out there repairing homes for the elderly, mentoring younger kids. They were a genuine force for good in the town. So you might be thinking, did all this focus on character and community come at the expense of winning? Not a chance. In fact, it was the fuel for one of the most dominant coaching careers the state has ever seen. Just look at this number. Over his 34-year career, his teams racked up 229 wins. That is a staggering number. It speaks to an incredible level of consistency for a very, very long time. And get this, his teams won their league championship 26 times. We're not talking about a couple of good years here. This was a dynasty. Sustained dominance year after year after year. And he took them to the absolute top of the mountain 4 different times, winning 4 CIF Championships. That's basically the Super Bowl of California high school football. So how did he do it? Well, with a mix of brains and brawn. He was a total student of the game. He developed his own unique offense by literally digging through history, buying old college playbooks, studying Rose Bowl films from the 40s and 50s. The result was this physical, deceptive throwback system that other teams absolutely hated playing against. But honestly, as impressive as all of that is, his most remarkable achievement might be what happened after his players left high school. He somehow turned this small, working-class school into an NFL talent factory. I mean, just think about that for a second. In 2011, one public school, Colton High, produced more NFL draft picks than any other high school in the entire United States. Not some fancy private sports academy, a regular public school in a blue-collar town. And this chart just puts it into perspective. It wasn't just a good year. It was a total statistical anomaly. It's a testament to a program that was punching way, way above its weight class. And it wasn't a fluke either. The list just goes on. He created what he called a culture of belief. He said once those first couple of kids made it, the idea just became infectious. And pretty soon, college recruiters were just regulars on the Colton campus. So, that's the story everyone knew. A classic story of triumph against the odds. But it's a story that is now impossible to tell without acknowledging the huge shadow that has fallen over it. And this is where the whole narrative just gets turned on its head. The very things that were once seen as his greatest strengths, his deep personal involvement, treating his players like his own kids, having a home that was an open house, those are the very things that, as the source material notes, take on a totally different and much more troubling meaning in light of the allegations against him. This leaves the community he served in a really, really difficult position. I mean, how do you even begin to process 2 completely conflicting realities of the same person? When you lay it all out side by side like this, the contrast is just stark. On one side, you have the builder, the wins, the championships, that incredible NFL pipeline, the focus on academics and community. But on the other, you have this huge, deep complication.
a legacy that's now questioned, and actions once praised are now seen through a much, much darker lens.
Ultimately, this isn't just a story about a football coach. It's a story about memory, about legacy, and the incredible challenge of holding two contradictory truths in your head at the same time. And as the slide asks, there really are no easy answers. In the end, the story of Harold Strauss is one of undeniable impact and deeply unsettling questions. And it forces us to ask, how do we remember our heroes when their stories become so much more complicated than we ever thought possible?